Masculinity is under attack in all areas of culture, but nowhere is more prevalent or pointed than in cinema. Over the course of the previous 10 years or so, there seems to be a concerted effort to undermine the very notion that masculinity can be anything other than toxic. This has been accompanied, not coincidentally, with the rise of the independent female and the girl boss. Hollywood has fallen completely into the ideology of DEI, critical theory, and intersectional feminism, and they are destroying our male heroes. Think about the most common masculine attributes: strength, pride, stewardship, and the positive application of violence. Men charted the way into the new world, tamed the wilderness, and built the world we now live in, and we have enshrined those positive characteristics in our male protagonists over the years. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Indiana Jones, James Kirk, and superheroes like the Hulk, Thor, and Superman all embody some of or all of the traditionally masculine attributes. They are positive examples for young boys and men to look up to and emulate, so they must be destroyed. Radical feminism has worked for decades to blur the lines between men and women by elevating women and diminishing men in popular culture. On the rise are the independent women, the girl boss, the reliable female protagonist. At the same time, masculinity has been wrecked and labeled toxic. Strength has been labeled macho and reduced to nothing more than compensating for some perceived shortcoming. Pride is labeled as arrogance, stewardship as domination and being territorial, and the positive application of violence as simply being destructive. There is no room in the modern zeitgeist for a dependable, reliable man who takes control of the world around him and improves it. Modern men are divided into two camps: the overbearing, petty, violent villain, and the weak, effeminate, sniveling sycophant. These are the only two categories that Hollywood finds acceptable. Men are either enemies to be vanquished by the girl boss, or pathetic weaklings intended to support her in her endeavors. Popular culture is often a reflection of reality, but reality often mirrors the cultural images and archetypes we see. There is a concerted effort by members of society to undermine men by robbing them of a sense of pride in being masculine, and transform women into the masculine caricatures that we often are told are so toxic. In turn, people continue seeing a stream of this content constantly and begin to emulate it, thereby creating a feedback loop. Gone are the days of the rugged, manly man hero who knew how to apply knowledge and action to conquer a problem or defeat an enemy. Replacing them are the gender-fluid baby girl men. This is why our male heroes had to be destroyed. Han Solo was characterized as a harsh, shoot-first, brazen rogue who grew as a character, moving from being self-serving to caring about others and their cause. He made friends, won the love of a princess, and helped free a galaxy from oppression. Then, we see him in The Force Awakens, and he's lost his friends, abandoned his love, and does nothing to oppose the new oppressive regime led by his son. He's a bumbling old man who is shown up by a woman who has never left the planet she grew up on and is killed by his son with very little fanfare. Indiana Jones was a swashbuckling, cave-diving adventurer who had both brains and bronze. Over the course of the 3 movies, Indiana Jones captured priceless artifacts and beat up Nazis. Even in the dreadful attempt at a 4th movie, he found the love of his life, connected with the son he didn't know he had, and settled down. So, of course, the attempt of a 5th movie saw him as a washed-up old man with a fractured marriage and a dead son who had to be dragged around by a young woman into another adventure. Neo was the chosen one in the Matrix trilogy, holding reality-bending powers and taking the initiative to save humanity and machine alike. At the end of Matrix Reloaded, Neo is given a choice: save his loved Trinity and doom humanity, or save humanity and restart the control cycle. The choice is intended to force him into only one option, thereby demonstrating that even the chosen one is under the control of the machines. Neo takes control of his destiny and chooses to save his love, requiring him to find another solution to the impending destruction of humanity. Neo takes charge and travels deep into the machine capital, facing the machines head-on and brokering a deal which ends with his death. Neo's noble sacrifice at the end of the Matrix Revolutions was a fitting end for a man willing to give his all for those he cared about. So of course, when he returns in Matrix Resurrections, we find Neo weak and confused. We learn that his power is dependent upon his proximity to Trinity. Furthermore, he can no longer fly, but she can. His power has been taken and given to her. James T. Kirk was the captain of the Enterprise in the original run of Star Trek and the first 6 Star Trek motion pictures. Kirk was a rational, capable, brave commander who cared for both the crew and those who opposed him. In the reboot of the character, he was portrayed as arrogant, petulant, and self-centered. Even Spock was darn dirty, going from cold, logical, and even-tempered to emotional, hot-headed, and autistic. We've seen similar character destruction in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Tony Stark was killed, Steve Rogers shirked his responsibilities and got old, Thor was turned into a fat, mopey buffoon, Star-Lord was turned into an emotional, moody sad sack, and the Hulk was neutered and shown up by his cousin, who just got the Hulk powers, and told that she is far better at managing her anger than he ever will be. Hawkeye had to be rescued by his younger female sidekick, Daredevil was reduced to a booty call and made to do the walk of shame, and Ant-Man is constantly the brunt of every joke. And finally, no discussion of this topic, especially on this channel, would be complete without discussing Luke Skywalker. In the OT, Luke was a brave young man with an adventurous spirit that also held to his obligations. He trained and grew in skill, faced his demons, and overcame the most evil entity in the galaxy. He was a man who knew when to apply violence to overcome an enemy, but more importantly, he knew when not to apply violence. He was strong, capable, and felt an obligation to defeat evil and oppression in the galaxy. The depiction of the character continued into the expanded universe. Luke continued to fight against the remnants of the Empire, re-established the Jedi Order, raised the next generation of Jedi to shepherd the Galactic Order, and opposed and defeated an existential threat to the entire galaxy. This was all flushed down the drain with the sequel trilogy, where Luke has abandoned the galaxy and gone into hiding, being all but completely missing from the first movie. When we finally see him fully in The Last Jedi, he is a bitter old man who, after a moment of weakness, deserted his entire ideology and left the galaxy to be conquered by an oppressive regime. He has shirked his responsibility and looks forward to nothing but dying. He has been robbed of all of his former honor, dignity, and responsibility. He does finally have one moment to shine, buying time for the Resistance to escape before dying and fading away all alone. All that Luke Skywalker is meant to represent was taken and destroyed, which is why the expanded universe is so important. We have a record of what Luke Skywalker, and Han Solo as well, once were and could have remained as available to us. Check out the expanded universe if you haven't. They are the true legacy of the original Star Wars trilogy. These are only a few notable examples of the attack on masculine males in media. Popular fashion, actor representation, and political machinations have all followed suit. Effeminate and or incompetent men are put forth as the example of the ideal man. Any men still holding on to any semblance of masculinity are portrayed as toxic and sexist. The lines between men and women are being further blurred with every subsequent portrayal. But why? Why are so many elements seemingly coordinated toward the feminization of men? This is a tough question to answer, mainly because every party has its own motivations. There is no secret cabal where these different groups get together and plan these things out. There's no secret agenda, but only a confluence of motivations aligning toward a single result. Movie studios are seeking to right the perceived wrongs of America's past by reversing the characterizations of men and women. Women are portrayed as stoic, strong, and unfeeling, while men are either weak and unsure of themselves or overbearing and aggressive. Politically, efforts are made to court women and push endeavors designed to help them, while men are often pushed aside and left to their own. In fashion, women's apparel has become more masculine with hard lines and structured clothing, while men's fashion has moved to softer and more stereotypically feminine features in order to open a whole new market for men's accessories and apparel. We need to demand media that properly represents masculinity and femininity and places special emphasis on good stories over messaging. There are some who are still producing this kind of representation. Top Gun Maverick, One Piece, and Godzilla -1 all contain good storytelling without preaching to their audience. When these kinds of stories come along, we need to support them. But more importantly, when stories that blur these lines and are more focused on pushing a message than telling a story come along, we need to ignore them. Let these studios face the constant string of embarrassing flops, as we've seen with Disney specifically and Hollywood as a whole over the previous 5 years or so. There's no guarantee that this will work. After all, Hollywood is far more beholden to its ideology than it is to making money. But it's the only way to possibly turn the tide. What do you think? Is this an important subject? Can Hollywood's direction be changed? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching.